No, no. How many of us like to say no? How many of us like to hear the word no? Um, Here's the challenge. And this is again under the heading of so many times when I'm coaching people, I give the exact opposite advice to one person that I give to another. And this is appropriate. When you understand personality types and you understand how different each of us is, we have perfect advice for one person, terrible advice for another. And this brings me to the word no. So what we know, KNOW, is that it is actually a personality type temperament um, type situation where we know that people have a certain preference for saying no or for saying yes. And for some people, saying no is incredibly hard, and for another set, saying yes is incredibly hard. And here's the thing is that um, it's people who are inclined to say no are inherently more focused, and people who say yes though actually have a much harder time learning to say no. And this is my experience, it's anecdotal, but people who are inclined to say yes because there are a couple of things in play there that enter into that. And so the first thing about making it easier to say yes or no is to make sure that your purpose and your intentions in life are big enough. So when you have a big enough goal, you have something that is grabbing you, that's very meaningful to you. You can say no to those distractions. Um, when you're just meandering through life and wandering, you'll say, you'll say no to nothing and yes to everything. So the when we come to the personality type situation, people who are known as perceivers will tend to be more inclined to say yes, and are driven by FOMO, fear of missing out, a lot of times. And people who are judgers will more easily say no because they don't want the interruptions. They have a destination in mind, and choose to go for it. So I can't, and you can't, and none of us can fix either one of those. There's nothing to be fixed. But perceivers can have as big of a purpose as judgers. And the hard part for perceivers is choosing which of those purposes to pursue. But to give you an example of, is it achievable? Is it achievable to learn to say no? Bill Gates is a perceiver. Warren Buffett is a perceiver, but they also had big enough intentions, big enough purposes that drove them. And so I'm not suggesting to you to try to even, achieve that kind of a scale, but identify those purposeful things in your life that will guide you for that. And, along those lines, sometimes, perceivers can be inherently inclined towards achieving in their work, and it's easier on the yes no front there. On the family front, it might be the other way around, or it might be the same way. But my point being that if you're challenged by always saying yes and being an agreeable person, you I can say this without hesitation, you need to learn to say no more. And so that first step is your intention, is your purpose. The next one is to know that hesitating to say no is not an act of kindness. Maybe is not an act of kindness. Maybe is torture for someone looking for an answer from you. And so if you really want to be a very kind person, learn how to say no. And in my experience, when you first of all go back to that big enough purpose, what's your intention? And then the next thing, oh, what's the kind thing to do here? Oh, the kind thing is to actually just say no. It's not to say maybe and act as if, I'm giving it some thought. No. Listen listen to your body, What is your body telling you you should say? And your body will tell you the answer that works for you almost every time. It's either yes or no. And so let go of that. If you're a yes person, if you're an agreeable person, let go of that inclination to try to please others. Try to let go of your fear of missing out. Try to let go of those things, and instead listen to what your body really wants. And if your body really wants to say no, then embrace the power of that and say no. And know that in being that clear, you're actually being kind. You're being kinder to that person than you are by agreeing to do something that in the end you won't perform to your highest capacity. If you don't listen to your body, you say yes to something, your heart, the old saying, your heart's not going to be into it. Well, I always say it's your whole body's not going to be into it. And so what's the reason for this? What's the reason for this talk tonight? It's to hopefully give people who are inclined to say yes too often the the power and to understand the strength in saying no, and to know that you're being a kind person and that you're helping each other by clearly just saying no. I'm Robert J. Conley. I hope that helps.